Chapter 1. He woke up on the side of an abandoned road. He ran his fingers through his tangled hair. He stood up. The trees were bare leaves. He didn't know who he was or what he was. His ankles and wrists were wrapped in bandages. The road was cracked and the yellow paint was faded. On the other side was a park. The seats on the swings were gone. The equipment was rusted. He then wondered, how long has he been here? He looked at his reflection in a puddle. He didn't look old. He looked about 14. He flattened his long, pointy animal ears against his head with his hand. His furry chest was smeared with mud. He looked over at the park, thinking it's time to explore. He walked up to the chain-link gate. A big rusted padlock held the rusted gate closed. His tail whipped in frustration. He somehow knew he had to get in. He hooked his feet onto the fence and started climbing. When he reached the top, he leaped into the playground. He started walking, not knowing where his legs were taking him. The grass was tall and overgrown. He thought he saw a skeleton, but it was just a birch tree. Suddenly the ground bounded toward his face. He had fallen on something made of fabric. He got to his feet, picking it up. It was a black jacket. It would fit a small child. He then knew he was looking for something, but didn't know what. He had walked along the old road and made it into a town. It was nighttime and the streets were empty. The houses were all the same. There was a convenience store, a bar, and a post office. That was pretty much it for other buildings. The lights flicker on in one house and someone walks out. He couldn't tell if it was a lady or something else. She looks at him. He freezes. She walks over. Up close she was hideous. Her eye sockets were empty. She barely had any hair. Her mouth was mangled and twisted in different directions. She had 6 arms on each side. She was thin and her skin was a sickening green. She had a red bathrobe around her body. "Oh, you poor thing, you must be freezing." She firmly grips his shoulders. That was unexpected. "Come into my house. You can warm up and I'll get you something to wear." Once inside the house, the lady seats him in an armchair and lights the fireplace. "I'll go upstairs and see what I have for you to wear." She happily strutted up the stairs. He sat back in the chair. He felt warm and cozy, but he was terrified. That's what kept him awake. He gazed around the room. On the mantel of the fireplace were empty picture frames. That confused him. The lady returns, holding a pair of brown jeans. "This is all I could find that would fit you, but at least it's something." He thinks she's smiling, but he can't tell because of how disfigured her mouth is. She sets the jeans on his lap. "I should tell you, my name is Miss Edra Sockets." "And who may you be?" He was silent for a few seconds. I don't know. I can't remember." She looks concerned for a few seconds, but she notices the jacket from the park are tied around his neck. "What is that?" Miss Sockets questioned. "Oh, I found it, and something inside of me told me to take it with me." He still hasn't found out what he's looking for or who he is. "Oh, maybe you should get some rest. There's a blanket in the cabinet by the couch." She climbs up the stairs once again. After she disappeared onto the second floor, he stood up and slipped the pants over his bare legs. After he got the blanket, he curled up on the chair. He stayed wide awake for a long while, but he ended up drifting off to sleep. He drowsily opens his eyes. Daylight is pouring through the window. He remembers he's in Edra's living room. He hears footsteps upstairs, then voices. "I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten in days," a voice hissed. "Don't worry, our house guest is downstairs. He couldn't remember anything," Miss Sockets replied. "Speak quieter. You don't know if he's awake yet," the other voice hissed warningly. He didn't want to know what would happen next. He got up and walked out the door. Surprisingly, the 12-armed lady didn't lock the door. Once out the door, he looked around. The town seemed very dull and miserable. He walked around. Crazy-looking people stumbled in and out of buildings. Something hard hit him in the head. He looked in the direction it was thrown. Another one hit him right in the face, giving him a nosebleed. As soon as his vision came into focus, he saw a slug-like boy with bird feet and human hands. Holding a rock behind him was a chubby human boy and a headless child. He hesitated for a second, then walked over. "What?" did you throw that at me? And why is this town so miserable? The slug kid looks at him like he's stupid. You're new here, aren't you? He nods. Well, 6 years ago this town was as bright as daisies, till Mr. Bloodshed took over. The kids behind him nod. At least the headless one tried. By the way, my name's Billy, and these are my friends John and Ghana. They start to go, but Billy turns around. Oh, and stay away from old Mr. Edge's sockets. Oh, okay, thank you. This town sends shivers down his spine. Mr. Bloodshed? That sounds disturbing.